The federal government is open again after 16 days of a partial shutdown and the threat of default on debt. But the reprieve is only temporary. The government is funded only until January 15th and the debt ceiling extended until February 7th. In remarks made this week, President Obama saw three places where Congress could continue to strike bipartisan deals: the budget, immigration, and the farm bill.
We should pass a farm bill, one that American farmers and ranchers can depend on, one that protects vulnerable children and adults in times of need, one that gives rural communities opportunities to grow and the long-term certainty that they deserve.
In our Newsmaker interview, I spoke with Oklahoma 3rd District U.S. Representative Frank Lucas, chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, about the vote and prospects for the farm bill. Congressman Lucas, in Oklahoma's delegation, only Congressman Tom Cole voted in favor of the deal. You opposed it. Why not?
Well, from my perspective, it just pushes the inevitable off. The spending issues, the funding of the federal government until January, the debt ceiling until February. Now, I know there's a mechanism in there to compel the Budget Committee to finish a conference, to provide spending guidelines for the Appropriations Committee so they can do their work, and I hope that's successful. But we need to remember the underlying struggle that led to this was not just the question of getting the Senate, forcing the Senate to have a vote on repealing Obamacare or delaying it for a year. The real underlying issue here is we didn't pass the 12 appropriation bills to fund the federal government this year. And some will say immediately, well, why was that? Because the House and the Senate and the President could not agree on spending levels. The House perspective is that we have a $17 trillion debt almost. We've done 4 years of trillion-dollar annual deficits, that we have to spend less money. The Senate wants to spend more. The President wants to spend even more than that. And when we couldn't agree on the appropriation bills, that's how we got into this fix. I hope that the Budget Committee conference process, which my colleague, Congressman Cole, will be a very central part of, can come up with the guidelines that then the Appropriations Committee can follow.
Is there any reason to think that Congress can reach a compromise deal before the next budget crisis comes up?
Well, first let me say I'm an Oklahoma wheat farmer, so I'm an eternal optimist. I'm also chairman of a conference committee to craft a 5-year comprehensive farm bill, and that means bringing very dramatic differences in the House and Senate farm bills together. If I'm willing to put a wheat crop in the ground, if I think we can craft a farm bill, yes, I think it's possible that the Budget Committee can work this out. But it's going to be really tough and really hard. Perhaps now with the focus of the entire nation on what happens when the regular order doesn't work, maybe that extra attention, that extra focus, that extra push will help compel the different factors to come up with an answer. But remember, a lot of these issues come down to the House perspective, for instance, of spending less. The President and the leadership in the Senate say the issue is how do we have more revenue? That means more tax revenue. I mean, there's some tough stuff here that they've got to sort out, but can they? Yes. Will they? I hope so, for the sake of everybody.
In his speech on the budget deal, the President said that he thinks there are 3 areas where everyone can come together, where Washington can actually make some progress: the budget, immigration, and the farm bill. How do you see it going forward for the farm bill?
I think we're going to get a farm bill done. Within the farm bill, we're at a point in time we have conferees appointed. Our first public conference will meet not this coming week because the Senate's not in session, but the following week is my expectation. Most of the farm bill, when you step away from the nutrition title and the commodity title, most of the farm bill, the differences between the House and Senate language are very, very small. And even in the nutrition title, we all agree on what the reforms will do, how much money they will save. The question is just how much of a difference between the Senate's $4.5 billion in reforms and savings and the House's $40 billion in reform and savings. Where in between do we come up? The Senate's going to have more reform. I realize that the House number of $40 billion is probably not achievable, but automatic food stamp eligibility, we call it the program that basically 40 states use a loophole in the federal law to say if you draw any other kind of federal benefit, you get food stamps, categorical eligibility, LIHEAP. I mean, there's a number of things out there, but we can sort that out once once I think we get to that final point.
It's very unusual to have an expired farm bill and also a budget impasse like we've seen. How is that affecting the agriculture community?
Well, in two ways. One, the budget impasse, and for basically 2 weeks having the federal government closed, not only created a lot of ill will around the countryside and a lot of concern and confusion, but it also stirred up my colleagues. And we should have actually accomplished a little more in the last 2 weeks than we have. But quite simply, there was not enough political oxygen left once you got past the spending issues and the debt ceiling issues to discuss these other issues. And that's unfortunate. But I do believe now, with this respite between now and the 1st of January, as the Budget Committee works, I can refocus the various groups. I was very pleased when the President said a farm bill was an important item that should and could be accomplished. I agree with him on that one.
Congressman Frank Lucas, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.